The onus is indeed in the trial courts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your mentorship and guidance is priceless to us. I now request Honorable Ms. Justice G. Rohini to deliver the presidential address.
Honorable Justice Madan Biloku, Judge Supreme Court of India, my esteemed sister, Justice Gita Mittal, Justice R.K. Gaba, Mr. A.K. Chawla, and Ms. Rekha Rani, my dear colleague who are present here, Justice Teji, Justice Mehta, and Justice Sangeeta Dhingra, and the district and sessions judges and many other senior judicial officers who are present here, Mr. Rajiv Khoshla, Mr. Abhijat, Mr. Sanjeev Nasir, and other senior members of the bar, particularly Ms. Fatima Liwal, the chairperson of the Delhi Commission for Women, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's really gives me a great pleasure to associate myself with the today's program on account of the inauguration of the Vulnerable Witness Deposition Complex in these Hazari courts. As already mentioned by Justice Gita Mittal and other speakers, similar deposition complexes for vulnerable witnesses have already been established at Kakaduma Court and the Saket Court complexes. And I am happy to share with you that under the able guidance of Justice Gita Mittal, they are proved to be very successful in the functioning of the justice delivery system. And I must also add that we are very grateful to Honorable Justice Madan Biloku for having graced this occasion despite his busy schedule. We are grateful to you, sir, for the support and encouragement being extended for the implementation of the guidelines laid down by the courts for protection of the vulnerable witnesses. Crime is a public wrong. It is not only breaches public rights and duties, but also affects the society in general. It is an established fact that the testimonies of the witnesses form an essential ingredient in a criminal trial. The role of victim in a criminal trial can never be lost sight of. He or she is an inseparable stakeholder in the process of adjudication. Since their testimonies establish the guilt of the accused, it is imperative for justice to be done to ensure protection of witnesses as well as victims. Witness, as Bentham said, is the eyes and ears of justice. A witness is a person who gives testimony or evidence before any court. Investigation and prosecution to a large extent depend upon the witnesses who are reliable and whose testimony can be accepted as truthful, accurate, and complete. Our experience shows that eyewitnesses or victims turning hostile is one of the important factors for many cases ending in acquittal. Turning of witnesses as hostile may be on account of threats, coercion, monetary considerations, and political clouds. There may also be innumerable other corrupt practices ingeniously adopted to stifle the truth and realities coming out to surface. Any witness who has been subjected to threats of violence or retribution in connection with the proceedings can be termed as a vulnerable witness, and I feel it is the duty of the state to extend protection to such witnesses from intimidation or physical harm that the criminal groups may adopt to dissuade them from giving evidence. Witness protection includes various methods and measures required to be adopted at different stages of the criminal proceedings to ensure the safety and security of witnesses. The extent of protection depends on the nature of the risk to the security of the witness, the value of the evidence, and the importance attached to it in the facts and circumstances of the case. Right from the inception of the judicial system, it has been accepted that discovery, vindication, and establishment of truth are the main purposes underlying the existence of the court of justice. Restraints on the process for determining the truth are multifaceted. They have emerged in numerous different ways at different times and affect different areas of the conduct of legal proceedings. The concept of fair trial entails familiar triangulation of interests of the accused, the victim, and also the society. If the witness himself or herself is incapacitated from acting as eyes and ears of justice, the trial gets paralyzed and it no longer can constitute a fair trial. The Witness Protection Program covers all violent crimes where there is every likelihood of the witness or victim being intimidated by the accused. Every judicial member associated with the criminal justice system has a great responsibility to find a way to have access to the information possessed by the vulnerable witness in its most accurate form. Simultaneously, it is essential to protect the witness against further trauma. At the same time, it is imperative to make sure that the right of the accused to a fair trial is not defeated. All the three elements would be taken care of if the trial is concluded in the vulnerable witness deposition complex. Being the patron-in-chief of the Delhi State Legal Services Authority, I take this opportunity to share with you the various steps being taken by the Delhi State Legal Service Authority for effective implementation of the Delhi Victim Compensation Scheme 2011. The said scheme provides for payment of compensation to a victim of crime in the range of rupees 2 to 3 lakhs, as also a compensation of rupees 50,000 to a victim of human trafficking, child abuse, and kidnapping. Delhi State Legal Services Authority has been taking effective steps to ensure that the compensation under the scheme is disbursed to the victim of crime without any delay. In 2014, compensation was awarded in 280 cases, and 2 crores rupees was released to the victims, whereas in 2015, compensation was awarded in 195 cases and a sum of rupees 1.95 crores was released. Pursuant to the directions issued by Delhi High Court in a writ petition titled Nandita Adhar vs. Union of India, Delhi State Legal Service Authority, along with the Delhi Police, Department of Health and Family Welfare, Department of Women and Child Development, and Delhi Commission for Women, has framed standard operating procedures for setting up of one-stop centers in each government-owned hospital to cater to victims of rape, sexual offences, acid attacks, domestic violence, stalking, etc. The objective is to provide and tender all necessary assistance to a victim of crime under one roof, that is legal counselling, psychological counselling, forensic analysis, medical analysis, etc. On the same lines, one-stop centers are opened in 6 district court complexes with effect from 1st April 2016. Such centers, which are first of its kind, are dedicated setup where all basic amenities are available and where the victim can make himself or herself comfortable before making their way to the courtroom as and when called for testimony. I would also like to take this opportunity to share with you that following High Court's order in Jessica Lal and Nitish Katara cases, Delhi State Legal Service Authority, by involving major stakeholders, namely Delhi Police, Department of Home, Department of Women and Child Development, Delhi Commission for Women, Finance Department and NGOs, framed Delhi Witness Protection Scheme 2015. This is the first scheme of its kind in the country, making it a watershed in the procedure of providing protection to the witnesses. The members of the bar form an integral part of the system of administration of justice, and the community of lawyers always stand in the forefront for upholding the rights guaranteed under the Constitution of India. With the unconditional support extended by the members of the bar, the vulnerable witness deposition complex at the district court complexes of Saket and Kakaduma have been proved to be successful. I am sure similar support, understanding and cooperation will be extended by the members of the bar at this Hazari court as well. Before concluding, I would like to express my gratitude to Justice Geeta Mittal and her entire team for the wonderful opportunity provided to me to share my thoughts with you. And I conclude with a sincere prayer to the Almighty to bless all of us with the strength and courage to uphold the nobility and the glorious traditions of this great institution for many more years to come. Thank you.
Now, I request the Chief Guest, Honorable Mr. Justice Madan B. Lokur, to deliver the inaugural address.
Thank you very much. Honorable the Chief Justice, Justice Geeta Mittal, Justice Baba, all the Honorable Judges of the Delhi High Court, Mr. Chawla, Ms. Rekha Rani, the District Judges, Mr. Rajiv Khosla, President of the High Court Bar Association, Sanjeev Nasir, Abhijat, and other advocates, and distinguished guests, judicial officers, and friends. I'm very happy to be here once again in the Hazari courts. I think it's been maybe about 7 or 8 months since I came here last, and it's always a pleasure to be here with all of you and with friends. I'm also very happy that today I was able to inaugurate this complex for vulnerable witness deposition. I think it's a great achievement. I know that a similar complex was opened first in Kakaduma and then in Saket. I've had occasion to visit the complex in Kakaduma, and I know it's a wonderful place, and the one over here also, which I had occasion to see earlier today, is also extremely good. It's a little cramped, but Geeta tells me that there's a shortage of space over here. But in spite of that shortage of space, I think you've done a wonderful job, and congratulations to you and to all the persons who've been involved in this. There are a few things that, a few experiences that I would like to share. One is that maybe I think about 8 years ago or 9 years ago, just when I was leaving my chamber in the Delhi High Court, I checked my email just before leaving, and I was surprised to find one email which said that a 7-year-old girl and her father, who was a daily wager, had come to the court 7 times for recording a statement under section 164, and the statement of that girl was again due to be recorded the next day, and the email made a request that is it possible to ensure that the statement of the girl is recorded and the matter does not get adjourned again for the 8th time. So I decided to treat that email as a letter petition and a public interest litigation. I rang up the Chief Justice and I told him, I said that this is the email that I have received, and I would like the matter to be taken up the very next day. The Chief Justice telephonically gave his consent, and I spoke to the registrar and told him that he mark it in accordance with the roster and make sure that it is taken up as item number 1 the next day. So the registrar confirmed from the Chief Justice, and the matter was taken up the next day before the division bench hearing criminal cases, and they passed a direction requiring the magistrate to ensure that the statement of that girl is recorded. Now, the thing is that the girl was 7 years old. You can imagine the trauma that she must have undergone coming 7 times, and on the 8th time the statement was recorded. Her father was a daily wager, so he had to lose 7 days' wages. So this was the kind of treatment that was given to this victim of rape, and I'm talking about 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 2008 or 2009. The second incident is when I had visited Shillong again 8 or 9 years ago, and the district judge there told me that the procedure for a witness to get the transport expenses, the diet money and so on, is that the witness has to come again the next day to claim the amount, which I thought was very strange, because the witness comes, gives a deposition, and then the next day the witness has to come to claim yesterday's transport allowance and food allowance and so on. The third incident is again from here, from Hazari, where I found that for a witness to get the diet money was a very complicated affair, and many of the witnesses who came here, and I'm not talking about vulnerable witnesses, many of the witnesses who came here said, forget it, let's not take the money, it's a very complicated affair, or the amount was too low. Justice Dhingra was at that time the district judge, and I brought it to his notice, and he set up some sort of a counter, I think here on the first floor or second floor, I'm not very sure, to ensure that at one place the witness can go and get the diet money. I hope it is still working over here, but that made a huge difference. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning these instances is that we have not been treating witnesses with the kind of importance that they deserve. Chief Justice Rohini just mentioned that witnesses are the eyes and ears of the justice delivery system. Now, if this is the way in which we are going to treat witnesses, I don't see how the justice delivery system can progress. Witnesses have absolutely no stake in the case. They may be an eyewitness to a murder or some crime. They may be witnesses to the execution of some document. So they have nothing to gain or nothing to lose. They just happen to be witnesses, and therefore why should they be given this kind of treatment, which should not be given to anybody at all, particularly to a person who has got nothing to do with the case or who has no interest in the case. So far as vulnerable witnesses are concerned, I think the position has improved considerably over the last maybe 10 or 15 years, maybe 20 years. There was a time when witnesses were being intimidated. First of all, if it's a victim of some sexual offense, the first thing that a defense lawyer would do would be to scare that person so that the person cannot give any evidence. Then, if the victim was not scared, then to ask all kinds of silly questions, all kinds of embarrassing questions, so that because of the humiliation in public, the victim would not be able to answer any questions. But then things have changed. It started off by having these in-camera proceedings. There was a progress made by having screens. And today we have reached this stage where we have a wonderful room that is available with the use of modern technology, and the statement of the witnesses can be recorded. And this is not only with regard to female witnesses. who are victims of sexual offences, but it could be males who are victims of sexual offences. It could be children who are otherwise not necessarily victims of sexual offences, but who are witnesses to a crime. They are also vulnerable in a sense. So really, the idea is to broad base or to give a broad definition to a vulnerable witness, so that you will have males, you will have females, children, you will have witnesses to a crime, not necessarily victims, who can get the benefit of the complex that you have over here. The important thing that I find really is that the complex has been created, I will not say developed, but it has been created without any additional resources, without taking up any space. I think one of the rooms Geeta was telling me was used to be a storeroom, and the whole complex was a storeroom. So really there is this space, and the idea is to utilize whatever space you have, to use a little bit of imagination, to be a little innovative, and spaces that which we don't even look at. I know this hall itself was not being used for any particular purpose, and the idea was, which came from the judicial officers, to have this sort of a hall over here. So really, I think you've done a wonderful job in being able to utilize whatever space is available, imaginatively, innovatively, and to create a complex where vulnerable witnesses can be taken care of. I can also say that maybe a couple of months ago, when I had gone to Bangalore, I was told about some judicial officers who had visited Delhi and who had visited the vulnerable witness complex in Karkaduma a couple of years ago. So really the idea of this kind of a complex has spread thanks to Delhi to other parts of the country. I know some people who have come here to Karkaduma. I don't know whether they visited Saket, but I'm sure people from different parts of the country have been coming here and have been visiting these complexes. In due course of time, the wish that Justice Geeta Mittal has of spreading this to other parts of the country will, I'm sure, bear fruit. One last thing that I would like to say is that, and this is really to Ms. Swati Maliwal, who is the chairperson of the Delhi Commission for Women. Again, about 7 or 8 years ago, the Delhi Commission of Women had conducted a study about sexual offences, cases of sexual offences that are pending in Delhi. And the report was made available, if I remember correctly, sometime in 2009. Justice Geeta Mittal, you'll probably find a copy of that report in the library. I made sure that it's available in the High Court library. It might be available in your office as well. That report was conducted by an advocate, Aparna Bhatt, and a team of lawyers, maybe about 10 or 12 lawyers. They had studied almost every case in Delhi, that was pending in Delhi. And some of the findings are really revealing, about how litigation is conducted in these kind of matters. Of course, that was well before the vulnerable witness complex had come up or even visualized. But that will, I think if you're able to dig out that report, it will certainly give you a great insight into how litigation used to be conducted and how it is being conducted now. So with these few words, I must congratulate everybody over here, all of you who have been involved under the leadership of Chief Justice Rohini, under the leadership and guidance of Justice Geeta Mittal. Congratulations on a wonderful job that you have done. I'm sure this will spread to all parts of the country. It's a matter of time. I just want to say one thing, Geeta, you had thanked everybody for the support except the Supreme Court. But you have definitely the support of the Supreme Court in this. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your experiences. Now I request Ms. Rekha Rani, District and Sessions Judge, West District, Hazari Courts, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Honorable Mr. Justice Madan Inaugural Judge in Circuit Jail, Honorable Mr. Justice G. Romi, Chief Justice Delhi High Court, Honorable Mr. Justice Geeta Mittal, Judge Delhi High Court, Honorable Mr. Justice R. K. Kama, Judge Delhi High Court, Honorable Mr. Justice P. S. Deji, Honorable Mr. Justice I. S. Mehta, Honorable Mr. Justice Sangeeta Jindra Sehgal, Judges Delhi High Court, Shri A. K. Chavla, Leonard District and Session Judge Headquarters, Shri Talwant Singh, Shri Yogesh Khanna, Shri Amarnath Ji, Leonard District and Session Judges of other districts, Ms. Asha Menon, Principal Judge Headquarter Family Court, Principal Judges Family Courts, Ms. Swati Maliwal, Chairperson Delhi Commission for Women, Shri H. Suri, Shri Rajiv Khosla, Shri Sanjeev Nasir, Shri Abhijit, my dear colleagues, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am indeed honored and privileged to propose vote of thanks on this historic occasion of inauguration of Vulnerable Witnesses Deposition Complex here today. In Shambhunath's case, Apex Court lamented that witnesses trembled on getting summons from the courts and directed the trial courts to respect witnesses as guests invited through summons. Despite the set mandate, witnesses continue to suffer hostile situations and traumatic experiences in the court. Public confidence in the efficacy of criminal justice got eroded on account of witnesses turning hostile, leading to acquittal of accused even in cases of heinous crimes. This is going to change. Deposition before court will soon be a comfortable experience, thanks to the initiative of Honorable Delhi High Court. At the outset, I convey my hearty thanks to Honorable Mr. Justice Madan Inaugural, Judge Supreme Court of India, for gracing the inaugural ceremony and sharing with us his vision and views. We are indeed encouraged by His Lordship's benign and gracious presence, and immensely enlightened and enriched by his inspiring address. We are also sincerely grateful to Honorable Ms. Justice Geeta G. Rohini, Chief Justice Delhi High Court, for gracing the occasion. Ma'am, you have voiced your concern for vulnerable witnesses being our eyes and ears, and therefore indispensable for administration of justice. The establishment of this complex here is a testimony of your deep commitment towards making the functioning of judiciary increasingly sensitive to most vulnerable stakeholders in the administration of justice. Thank you, ma'am. I am deeply thankful to Honorable Ms. Justice Geeta Mittal, Judge, Delhi High Court, for her untiring efforts and able guidance for the establishment of this complex here. Honorable Ms. Justice Geeta Mittal, in her landmark judgments in Virendra vs. State and State vs. Rahul, deplored frightening and bewildering court atmosphere in which witnesses are examined, and highlighted the need for creating witness-friendly environment, which is essential to reinforce and strengthen the credibility of criminal justice system. It is because of her untiring efforts that this complex has seen the light of the day. Thank you, ma'am. I am also sincerely thankful to Honorable Mr. Justice R. K. Kama, Judge, Delhi High Court, member of the committee dealing with matters of vulnerable witnesses, under whose able guidance and support this complex has come up. Thank you, sir. My sincere thanks to print and electronic media for their presence and giving excellent coverage of the event. My hearty thanks to Chairperson, members of BMC, organizing committee of this event, Shri D.K. Sharma, Shri Sanjay Garg, Ms. Kaveri Baveja, Mr. M.K. Gupta, Shri Hem Raj, caretaking and support staff for the dedication and teamwork in making this event successful. I also thank police authorities for making security arrangements and civic agencies for making necessary arrangements. My special thanks to Mr. Chavla, Leonard District and Session Judge Headquarters, who has painstakingly made all arrangements for organizing this event. Once again, I thank you.
As Honorable Ms. Justice Geeta Mittal has aptly observed in a program earlier, we as human beings need to keep pace with today's children both abled and differently abled. With this program, we endeavour that we are better able to fulfill their expectations of such children, and on this note, we have chosen an anthem for you. May I request for the lights to be dimmed and for everyone